Okay, Ninja Cats, listen up. We know now that our adversary is Militia, an evil sorceress of great power and extreme danger. Doesn't she kind of remind you of... Let's not go there.
All humans kind of look alike to me.
Guys, focus. Militia craves power, mystical power. She's got to be looking for some sort of treasure or source of mystical energy that somehow is located in our vicinity. Now, Militia's powers give off a great deal of energy on their own, so normally we'd be able to scan and track her. But there's a problem. Militia has apparently cast some kind of shield spell around the entire city. It's jamming your tracking scanners and leaving us unable to find out exactly where most of the energy is concentrated in. Couldn't we destroy the shield at the source? It's gotta be coming from the middle of the perimeter, right? In theory, yes, but we don't know if the shield is being projected from a single location in the center of town or from multiple locations in a circumference. And we can't go searching the entire city from multiple spots. Our resources are limited.
Yeah, we've seen the budget for your show.
I'll deal with you later. Fortunately, we know that Militia has to stay in the location that the spell was cast in order to keep it operating. While we can't pinpoint where that location is, we at least know that when she moves to go after whatever she's searching for, the shield will drop and we'll be able to track her. So for now, all we can do is keep watching the energy shield and wait for it to drop. That will be our cue to strike. Now, obviously, Militia's going to know this, so she and her Drek army will be prepared for a fight. We've got to be doubly ready. In the meantime, do as much research as you can and try to find any information about mystical artifacts or treasures that might have been lost in this area. It will help us greatly if we can find out exactly what it is Militia is after. Genie? Report to me once the shield drops or you get any information. In the meantime, gotta go and try to make money to keep a roof over our heads.
He's not exactly the most motivational sensei, is he?
And I'll still take him over a giant talking rat. So, where were we? Oh yes, about to review a bad superhero TV show. TV trash. We've already covered a few adaptations of comic book superheroes on this show, some bad, some tolerable, but I don't know if I've seen a bigger 180 turn than the difference between the animated and the live action version of The Tick. The Tick is basically a spoof of comic book superheroes and was originally created by Ben Edlund as the mascot of the New England comic book stores before getting his own comic book in 1988. But it was in 1994 that he gained mass popularity through an animated series on Fox Kids. I admittedly didn't really watch it that much when it came on, but from what I've seen of it since then, it does come off as pretty goofy and enjoyable. At any rate, in 2001, a live-action version of the show and characters premiered on Fox's prime time lineup. Because, you know, it makes perfect sense to take a cartoon that aired on Saturday mornings and make a live-action version for prime time on the network that gave us Married with Children. The pilot episode opens with a monologue by Joe from Family Guy.
Someone's gotta don the oven mitts of all that's right and strangle the red-hot throat of all that's wrong. This is that someone's story.
Hey, boss. Still there? Yep.
We then see our title hero and... Oh, that's really the look you character apparently began his superhero career harassing patrons at a bus depot under the belief that he was helping them. So much so that the bus line actually slips him a ticket to the city to get rid of him.
Perhaps it's time that I moved on to a place where there's
Stuff to do.
stuff to do.
And yes, that actually is Patrick Warburton playing our title character. I can't help but wonder what Mr. Barkin would think of him.
This is sick and wrong!
We then cut to Christopher Lloyd, who must have been desperate to get some role to wash away the stain of appearing in Stacked. His character has a little problem with one of his employees, Arthur.
I can't hide from it any longer. I
Don't say it.
I am going to become a superhero.
Look at yourself. You're built like a sensible shoe. You shouldn't be jumping around town in a body sock fighting crime. Metcalf! He lost all his game pieces just like you. Cashed in his 401k and bought a jetpack. Now the poor bastard needs a machine. To poop!
We're 5 minutes into this series, and the guy who played Jim Ignatowski is playing the most sane character. This is not a good sign. A couple of things here. This pilot is similar to the one in the cartoon show. Now, in that one, the Tick won some sort of audition to be assigned to work in the city. Yes, that is literally what our setting is called on both shows. But Arthur's coming into work wearing his moth suit and quitting his job is pretty much the same. Also, no, we never see where the Tick originally came from in this or the cartoon to the best of my knowledge, but at least I think it's intentional in this series. The rumor is that Edlund originally said his creation escaped from a mental asylum, which would make perfect sense and is understandable as to why they would want to keep that origin under wraps. I don't know for sure if they ever tackled the issue of the Tick's real identity in the cartoon, but as far as this show goes, I'll get to that later.
Let's teach him the lesson of Metcalf.
Metcalf?
Metcalf! My first damsel in distress. That's a... Here you go, jump! Don't do drugs! Wow!
Haven't seen you around before.
So the Tick's friends are Batmanuel and Captain Liberty, and get this, they're actually completely new characters made for this series based on characters from the cartoon show Deflator Mouse and American Made. This was supposedly due to Disney somehow getting the rights to the previous characters when they bought control of the Family Channel and the rest of Fox's kids programming. Speaking of, before anyone else points it out, yes, this show features both Warburton and Nestor Carbonell, who both had recurring voice roles on the show I reviewed last time. Yeah, I'm guessing Kim Possible's a little higher up on their resumes than this show. And at the risk of sounding insensitive, I really don't get Captain Liberty's costume, especially with the added detail in the remaining episodes. Don't get me wrong, Liz Vassy is really hot, but it looks like they were trying for some ironic joke about female costumes by giving her a cleavage window while making her look as flat as Deborah Messing.
Oh, I stepped in gum.
What's wrong with you people? You're superheroes. You're supposed to be, you know, heroic.
The Red Scare is a relentless robotic assassin built in the late 70s and programmed to kill Jimmy Carter.
Oh my God. Jimmy Carter is in town.
Jimmy Carter is in town. Heavens to Betsy, what are the odds? Pool! That's dirty pool! Oh, yes, it's too late. We learned that communism does not pay.
Well, as comical and cheesy as that fight scene was, which isn't too big of a deal for me, appreciate it, because it's gonna be the last one featured for quite some time. I'm not kidding. The rest of this series is almost exclusively about the Tick and his friends usually sitting around talking about what it's like to be a superhero or just meeting up with other such heroes. And I mean a lot of other heroes. And judging by how a lot of these guys act, I think the city's better off being protected by Hong Kong Phooey and El Kabong. Really, mostly what these guys do is go on yapping or whining about their personal lives while we see very little of things like, I don't know, them beating up criminals and saving innocent lives. You know, the kind of thing you'd expect to see in a superhero show.
Can you believe this? That little weasel, the weasel got his name on the front page again, not to mention a picture. Which, by the way, just shows you what the weasel he is. I stopped jewel robberies on my way to stopping major crimes.
I met a man. We're having a really great time. And the best part about it is, he has no idea that I am Captain Liberty.
Wait till he finds out.
What is that supposed to mean?
Oh, no, nothing, no. It's just when he finds out who wears the cape in this relationship.
You know, not everybody's as threatened by that as you.
The second episode features Captain Liberty meeting the Immortal, which I'm guessing is supposed to be a Superman XP, and him seducing her, only to end up with him dying during sex with her. Because irony?
She seemed so... And we were... And then sex. And then he... died.
Yeah, one episode in the bag, and these writers decide, let's jump right into superheroes boinking with it leading to death! And the rest of the episode is basically about the Tick trying to cover up his death to somehow protect his reputation. I hate to steal one of Linkara's lines, but our heroes! 2 episodes later, they actually get into the rarely discussed topic in the cartoon about what the Tick's real identity is. And then it completely turns into a story about a crazy chick convincing the Tick he's her husband.
She must do this all the time. She finds missing men and then claims they're her husband.
Yeah, she probably used Photoshop and a bunch of other programs to forge the documents. The agency does it all the time.
I thought the Tick was crazy, but it's her.
Well, I wouldn't be so sure about the Tick either.
Now, this isn't to say some of what they were going for here wasn't a good idea. Yes, showing the characters of superheroes as human beings with flaws and insecurities is a nice touch, and a lot of these stories would have worked if they were complementary to some story about stopping a major villain or crime in the process. But making that the exclusive focus of the show, with crime fighting pretty much sprinkled in, you've basically given the middle finger to what most of the viewers were tuning in to expect. It's even more shocking given not only that Edlund was directly involved in the series, but also given who else was involved. The production staff included Barry Sonnenfeld, the director of the Men in Black movies, and former Seinfeld producer Larry Charles, who actually said they went in this direction of little to no action because if the show is perceived as merely a superhero show or superhero parody show, I don't think it's going to work on a weekly basis. Why not? The 1960s Batman series lasted for 3 years, 2 episodes a week. This actually seems to be a growing trend in the past decade now that I look at it more. TV producers looking to take the medium of popular superheroes to make a show, thus drawing interest among viewers, and then turning things upside down and simply using those characters to make some deep emotional drama that they really wanted to do, often at the expense of the superhero action that most viewers expected to tune in for. This is one of the big reasons Birds of Prey failed, and admittedly they somehow found a way to make it work for a freaking decade on Smallville. But those were hour-long shows that again are what drama is best suited for. But more than that, those were based on longtime legendary superheroes, and again, they actually had a main evil/crime-fighting story anchoring each episode. Heck, the cartoon itself does a much better job of the same scenario. It also portrays Tick and Arthur in their own personal home lives, dealing with things like Arthur's sister coming to grips with his choice to be a superhero. But again, they actually made fighting crime a central point of the plot. Basically, it's like we're watching a bad reality show about superheroes where the cameramen are too chicken to catch them fighting the 100-foot-high dinosaur. Lame! One of the biggest examples of this to me was the decision to change the Tick's costume so it showed his full face rather than covering his eyes with those huge white goggles or whatever they were. Edlund said that was done because by covering his eyes, there was no way to get the same range, intensity, and specificity of emotion, and that this would make the Tick more three-dimensional. Again, I admit I wasn't an avid fan of the cartoon, but watching the episodes I did in preparing for this review, I think I get the basis of the Tick's character. He's nuts! He's totally off his rocker, and the cartoon costume accentuates that. The huge lidless eyes and huge cartoonish grin capture the image of a bug-eyed maniac jumping from building to building, which is just what he is. By actually showing his face, along with Warburton's more baritone voice, he comes off as more pompous than insane. The cartoon Tick comes off as someone you could laugh at because of his absurdity. This live-action version makes you want to say, dude, get some help! Ultimately, only 9 episodes of the live-action show were produced, which gave us more topics like Batmanuel and Liberty suing a bigoted superhero organization.
You're a bunch of spoiled brats. Oh, let's laugh at everybody. Let's all be mean and lazy and let's have no women allowed. I think it stinks to high heaven.
See, this is what happens when the fans complain about the Justice League cartoon using Jon Stewart over Kyle Rayner. I'll give them credit for one episode that did have a compelling superhero-related story with a supervillain being put on trial.
I'm afraid the evidence is inadmissible. It's like it doesn't exist.
But it's right there!
But then they're right back to the morbid and eye-rolling with an ep where Arthur tells his family he became a superhero, and it's compared to someone admitting he's gay.
You haven't told your mother that you're super?
No.
Hotlanta!
Arthur, what are you waiting for? You are a superhero. Now, you can lie or you can try to cover it up, but as soon as she sees you on TV or in the paper...
A Broadway musical?
Are you serious? Dot, Mom, you're giving me an intervention?
First the planet Caucasia on Homeboys, and now this. Do TV producers actively try to piss off as many cultures as possible? The show's cancellation was announced just after that 8th episode aired. Warburton blamed its poor showing on Fox's refusal to promote it since they were just the distributor rather than the owner, like with properties such as the Bernie Mac show. Maybe that's the case because the show does appear to have a cult fan base.
Could you run that by me again? I am sorry, but I wasn't listening.
But for me, all talk, no action, this was the TNA impact of superhero shows! Look, I really wanted to like this series. The costumes and the action scenes that did exist are so over-the-top ridiculous that they could have easily done a full live-action, tongue-in-cheek parody that showed just how stupid superheroes would look in real life. But they just dropped the ball by trying to inject serious drama and social issues into characters that were meant to be jokes in all the previous incarnations. incarnations. Warburton is sadly miscast in my view, and the other characters are either bland or outright douchebags, and you end up mostly rolling your eyes at them rather than laughing. There are some good things about it, and it was a nice try by Fox, but it just falls short of enjoyable to me. Not only would I prefer the cartoon version of the Tick protecting my city, I think I prefer the parodies of shows you get to see on the internet. See you next time on TV Trash.